It's Viara here from Archipath and welcome back to another video. And today I'll be talking about some of the architecture books that I've gathered along the way that I found particularly useful or interesting to me. So starting out with one of interests of mine is the Eco Handbook. And this just talks about, it's a practical guide about retrofit from SPAB. SPAB is mainly to do with historical buildings, things like that as well. So they have really good examples, if you can see, of practical solutions or different materials. Really good information about lime, sustainable materials, drought proofing, insulation, and it's really nicely illustrated and easy to follow with diagrams, and the text isn't too overwhelming. So I'd say if you want to learn about historical buildings or retrofit, then this is the one for you. Book number 2 that I would recommend that I found particularly interesting, and I know people say don't judge a book by its cover, but this one I did and I really like the graphic style. So this is called All to Play For, and it's about designing child-friendly houses, and it's by Dina Bornat, an architect who found her own practice and specializes. And I just really like how colorful it is, and it goes through different projects, school projects that they were involved, diagrams, notes, and it's just really easy to follow. And it's really easy to follow and goes through different things different acts, context about World War II, how it had influence on housing and the populations and buildings, reviving cities, and it's just really nicely illustrated, and it's a good book I'd recommend. And then a third one which I found particularly useful during architecture, particularly for structural design, where I often struggled with more 2D concepts that I found quite hard to understand. This is a really book. It's called Design to Perform, and it's written by Tom Dollard, who's an architect, and it goes through really well illustrated solutions on how the building can be retrofitted with colourful examples, which I found so easy to follow. There's so many examples that are more colourful, or quite easy to follow, with diagrams, energy efficiency tables. It has annotated details on photos from live construction sites, how to boost the construction quality of your home, making it more sustainable. And I'd say it's really good for university if you have to do a detailed section of your building and you don't know where to start. Looking at some of the case studies in this book is a really good starting point. And then another book I really recommend due to my own personal interest is Arts and Crafts of Churches. I'd say this was quite a niche topic, but it has some really interesting examples about intricate detailing, such as walls, and it really goes into the arts and crafts, how people really cared about natural materials, and it's more informative, and it's quite intricate in terms of the design, stained glass windows. And it goes through different this one's a bit about Birmingham. There's certain sections about churches or church furniture as well, and it's really interesting as Lanners Church is designed by architects specifically in the arts and crafts movement. So if you're interested in churches or just arts and crafts in general, I'd also really recommend this book. And another personal favourite of mine, it's more about historical architecture. It's called Writer's Architecture Primer, and it's basically a guide that talks about British buildings, so it has different vocab and grammar, and it's quite compact as well, so easy to carry. So for example, historical buildings, it talks about like different features like buttresses and things like that, and it labels them. So if you don't know what the specific aspects of the building that someone's referring to, I'd say this is quite good. And it talks about like different details as well, in terms of like, for example, like arches and like pediments as well. This architecture language that not a lot of people know or get quite confused because it's not really taught before school. So, and for example, it just goes into more detail, different like historical aspects, which is quite good. And yeah, it's like really graphical, so I'd say you won't get bored of this if you really like visual context. So yeah, this is really good, and I really recommend it. And then another favourite of mine, I found quite good in terms of how it's written, quite narrative, and it feels like you're involved in the story, and I really just enjoyed reading it. So it's Humanized by Thomas Heatherwick, and I really love this book. It has so many like images, and it's just written really well and just really intrigues you. So the book is basically about how to design human buildings for humans and design them in a more interesting way. So one of the examples I mentioned is Casa Miller by Gaudi, the famous cathedral that's still being built to this day, and also talks about modern buildings, how they like, some of them like Star Wars, most of them in like any city you pass, or like glass, just flat buildings, and you'd often pass it by or don't really consider it, compared to more decorative buildings that it like stops you sometimes in your attraction. You like think about like, wow, how much detail did like went into this, compared to a more modern building which is quite linear, and sometimes it's not as interesting to look at. So I'd really recommend this book if you ever get a chance to read. Yeah, so these are my main recommendations that I've collected over the years. Yeah, I try to be really selective in terms of my books, as I know they can get quite expensive, but yeah, these are the ones that I recommend. Primer, Arts and Crafts Churches, Designing Mortar Sections, and Old Eco Handbook. So if any of you guys like some of the recommendations, or if you have a particular interest that I haven't mentioned in like one of these books, since they're more tailored to like my interests, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I can suggest some books that are based on your topics, or even if at university you just need a book, let me know and I'd be happy to help. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this video was informative in some of the books that I found particularly interesting during my course, and hopefully some of them can be also interesting and informative for you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.